Okay, so once again, we're going to go over these, and let me just break down today's agenda for you all. So you were supposed to turn in activities 1 and 2, and the syllabus if you haven't turned it in yet. We're going to actually now talk about the soapstone analysis, and just to let you know, everyone will have a different idea of, well, everyone should have the same idea or like something similar, but then at the same time, your wording may be different. What you call it may be different, which is okay. And then at the same time, we're going to talk about it. After we do that, we're going to turn these introductions or these soapstones or these soaps analysis into an introduction paragraph. I'm going to give you guys an introduction paragraph template or the introduction template that we're going to use for class. And then for homework tonight, we're going to write it together, of course. And then for homework tonight, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to do a soap analysis of the story that's on the back. What do we have in our pockets? And then you're going to also turn that into an introduction paragraph on the template that I gave you. Yes. Or it's on the back of the.
Oh no, I didn't get the paper.
Oh my bad. We're in past it. So you didn't do the now?
She just got it. I just.
Alright. So hurry up and try to do that. Yes.
So the soapstone analysis are only for introduction paragraph?
Yes. So very good question. So what we're going to do in this class is we're going to learn about like 3 different ways to analyze, and I'm really going to write it for it because we'll do it slowly. So when we look at a SOAPs analysis, usually we use a SOAPs analysis for our introduction paragraph. Then after we use a SOAPs analysis for our introduction paragraphs, you're going to need those papers over here. Are both of you guys in this class?
No, she doesn't get those.
Just grab the papers from the back, take a seat, and try to follow along. You may have to stay after class and after school for about a week because we got to catch you up. No, the papers are right there. Go. You need those papers too that are right there. So you guys, make sure it's very, 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 very imperative to be on time to class on Thursday and Friday for first period. Like super duper important. It's a college class, so we'll be like moving like that. So you already missed one of the main lessons. Alright, so once again, I'll wait. So yes, when we use a SOAPs analysis, we'll generally use the SOAPs analysis for the introduction paragraph. And then some people put soapstone and they do a soapstone analysis. We'll talk about tone more so for our body paragraph. And then after that, we'll use the second level or some of the things that some people started reading already with the ethos, pathos, logos. That's a secondary analysis that we'll do on the text. And then other times we'll do stylistic elements and literary device elements analysis on a text, if that makes sense. So we'll do a few different levels of it. But for this class, primarily, our SOAPs goes into our introduction paragraph. Okay? All right. So who wants to read what they wrote for this particular do now? Okay, we'll take Saul first. Then after that, we're going to ask for other volunteers. So go ahead, Saul, read yours. What did you say the subject, occasion, audience, purpose, and speaker of this particular text appointment is for? Oh, and before you do that, let's start back from the actual, let's look at the actual article. Let me make sure I have an article. I'll read the article first, and then after that, we'll go into the soaps. So, in a crowded marketplace in Baghdad, a young servant was admiring colorful bolts of cotton fabric. Suddenly, a hooded female figure bumped into him. When the servant looked into the eyes of the dark figure, terror filled his heart. Quickly, he pushed his way through the crowd and fled. White and trembling, the servant returned home. "Master," he cried, "just now in the marketplace, a woman in the crowd jostled me. When I turned, I saw that the woman was death. She made a threatening gesture. Please," the servant pleaded, "lend me your horse and I will ride away from this city. I will go to Samar, where death cannot find me." The master was fond of the servant and agreed to lend him his swiftest steed. The servant dug his spurs into the horse's flanks, and as fast as the horse could gallop, he went. Later that afternoon, the master went down to the marketplace. He saw Death standing in the crowd. "Why did you threaten my servant this morning?" he asked. "That was not a threatening gesture," responded Death. "It was sort of a surprise. I was astonished to see him in Baghdad." "Astonished?" "Yes, you see, I have an appointment with him tonight in Samara." So, now, who can read their soapstone analysis? Like, what's the subject of this? So, we'll go there and Josh and Nate read yours. Go ahead, what's the subject?
The subject of this short story is about a servant's sudden and unexpected meeting with death.
Alright, so a servant's like sudden and unexpected meeting with death. I really like that. Very good. Next.
The occasion takes place in Baghdad to give the reader a taste of where the story is taking place and to help the reader visualize the story better.
So that's a good point, and I want to point it out, not that it's bad, but we'll say this. Don't forget, you're not really necessarily, when you're thinking about occasion, looking at the setting. That's more so like the setting of the story. Occasion is like what was happening in the time period, or when was this piece written, when and what time, like when, what place, what year, what decade, what, was going on in the world to make someone write this piece. What did you?
No, I had a question.
Okay.
So with that, if it doesn't specify, do you want us to like make an educated guess?
Yes. So try to make an inference if you can't actually most of the times you're going to make educated guesses, if that makes sense, and you're going to have to prove your words. So that's what Jalen was saying. He was like, this seems like it's art, and art is up for interpretation. Like, you can't just, get the right answer. The idea is you just try your best to predict or like I said, make an inference about, what the occasion is. Sometimes you'll be right on the money. Sometimes you won't. You know what I mean? So, all right, keep going. But good try. Good job.
The audience of the story is just any casual reader or anyone or someone who has a specific interest in mystery books with twists and turns.
Okay, very good.
The purpose of the short story is to let us readers know that death is inevitable. We as humans feel like we're always in control of our destinies, which is far from the truth. Humans might be in control of many things, but death is not one of those.
Alright, so no one knows where your time or your place to die is. I really like that as well, because remember, the P, to be honest, is the most important one. If you kind of don't get anything else right, at least try to get the P right. But hopefully, knowing everything else will help you get the P right, if that makes sense. But the purpose of the text is always the most important. What does the writer want you to do after you read this, or want you to know once you read this? And that was good, that death is inevitable. Now, someone may have had a different, view of this and said something different, and that's okay. The idea is, as long as you can prove it, when we start getting into body paragraphs, okay? So don't worry if yours was totally different, and I'm just praising his right now. It's just he's reading it, but I'll probably praise yours when I read yours too. Like, oh, that's wow, I didn't think of it that way. Okay? Okay. Keep going.
I think it's.
Okay. So remember, you're trying to think of the speaker. What would you say? Who would you say the speaker is? Like, who do you think? Either Mogham is, or who do you think, his persona is, or what do you think his persona is?
Because it says as told to, so I thought it was like someone telling him. Right?
Someone told him, but what do you think he retold it to us? You know what I mean? Or whoever originally said the story, why do you think they, who are they?
I don't know. It's probably a legend.
Probably someone who's legendary, who always tells stories. A legendary individual who's famous for telling stories. You can go with that. That's cool. You could have said Somerset, W. Somerset Maugham, a man who is legendary and famous for telling stories. That would be cool. So it doesn't, like I said, I know these are going to be different, and especially trying to find the speaker in this particular piece was difficult, because you had to think about the fact that it was told to this man, and now he's telling it to us. Keep going. Go ahead, Josh. Next.
Okay. What is this? I put appointed and smart can be read as a frantic and intense short story. The author, W. Summers Maugham, uses a suspense to lure an audience who enjoys the terror and surprise. The subject of the text would be the servant who deceives his master to go meet with death. The servant deceived the master by getting him to give him a horse instead of telling him that he had to meet with death. And I couldn't finish it all, but I was gonna put to back it up why I think this because I feel like he knew that he had to go meet with death, but he wanted, instead of telling the truth or something, like he wanted to make it seem like he could beat him to run away when he actually was gonna end up meeting death anyway.
So what do you say the purpose of this text is?
The purpose of the text, I would say that like lies catch up with you or something.
Or maybe not lies, but it's something always catches up to you. You know what I mean? So remember, when you're doing the first soapstone analysis, when you're just doing soaps, you don't have to put it in paragraph form yet, because we're going to do that in our introduction sentences, our introduction paragraph sentences. Introduction paragraphs. You're more so just trying to target right away these little quick points like what's the subject, what's the occasion, what's the audience, what's the purpose, who's the speaker, and then after that you transform it to paragraphs. But it's kind of cool as long as you know or you have these elements inside your introduction paragraph. If you're able to just start writing the intros like immediately, that's cool. But at least try to target them for right now specifically, so I can make sure you know the elements and know how to use them. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and look at yours, and I know I'm gonna walk around the room and look at yours as well when we start talking about our introduction paragraphs. But let's do two things. One, let's look at what I wrote. And like I said, mine is probably not like 100% right. Some of yours may be different than mine, and it's okay. So I just said the subject or topic of appointment is tomorrow is destiny or fate. So I tried to stick to like one word, but I did like the way someone said they actually gave us like the actual, like a lot of what was going on in the story. So you did give a lot of details, and you gave a lot of details, and that's still great too. So don't worry, like I said, I'm gonna do that in the intro, so you'll see. Occasion is a text is written in a time period where stories were used to teach lessons, because in my opinion, like this is that type of story, like a proverb or some type of fable where you're telling this story and it's supposed to teach you a lesson. The audience, yeah, or a parable, yep. So the audience, the author the author is writing. I was gonna say seems to be, but I want us to be sure about our words, so I'm gonna put seems to be. The author is writing for all people in the world, especially people who are trying to escape the fate that awaits them. So fate, death, destiny, same thing. Purpose, W. Somerset Maugham wants people to understand that they have to accept their destinies and not run from the fate God has selected for their lives, so they can't run from it. It's always going to be there. Like someone said, it's like it's imminent to happen. Death is going to happen. Either way it goes, it doesn't matter, but it seems to be that this is about something that, it's about not escaping something that's going to be your reality, if that makes sense. And then the speaker, W. Somerset Maugham is a philosophical intellectual who allows spirituality to guide his writing, because it seems like to have some kind of spiritual quality where you're trying to get you to maybe do the right thing or, be the best that you can. But, like I said before, this is not like the end all be all. That's one thing, but you'll learn in this class what you're writing. As long as you can prove it, you're okay. As long as you know what the words or the devices or the tools stand for. If you say that the purpose is something totally different, that's fine as long as you can prove it. Of course, you can't be like way off, but as long as you're pretty much on the same lines as what the general idea or consensus is, it's cool. But honestly, I've seen a few people like have a totally different like take on a piece of writing, and they were able to prove it to like the AP readers and the people on the college board. So it's not about like, oh, okay, no, that's wrong, or that's wrong. It's about being able to prove what you're saying. Does that make sense? All right, so what we're gonna do now, you're gonna keep yours, and you're going to steal, well, not really steal, but you're gonna turn these into, take little bits and pieces from this SOAPS analysis, and you're gonna turn it into an introduction paragraph. But for this particular class, and I know we know how to write all different types of introduction paragraphs, I just want to get to the basis and make sure that we can all write at least the same type of paragraph, and then you can go ahead and put your style on it. It's just like learning music in a music class. Before you can become Mozart, you have to learn the notes first. You have to learn how to play maybe Mary Had a Little Lamb, and then once you know how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, then you can be Mozart. Put your own little flavor into it, or whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? So the idea is, let's learn the basics, or make sure we all remember the basics, and then after that we can put our own little pizzazz on it, okay? So don't worry. We'll do a template probably for a couple of, like a month or two, and then once we all know the template, I'll tell you, okay, now write the way you want, or you think is appropriate for this particular piece. All right. So in front of you, you have a handout. Let me go back a little bit. I don't want you guys to like read it all the way yet, so I'll probably just take this off so you can see. Okay. So let's go ahead and read what do we need to have in an introduction paragraph. Once again, we're going to learn how to do it this way, and then when you have it down packed, I'll give you a few different versions of introduction paragraphs, and you'll find the different pieces, because some people may put the same elements or the same type of sentences in a different order, but they all make sure they have these elements in the paragraph. Okay? All right. So, who can tell me or read the sentence types or the sentence contents, or the contents of the sentence that you need in the introduction paragraph? Who can read this for me? I'm trying to get a lot of volunteers. Go ahead. And Kelly, you can read the next one. Thank you, Solid. Keep going.
Opening, hook, or attention grabber that connects to the text.
So the first thing that we're going to look at is an opening or a hook or an attention grabber that connects to the text in some kind of way, but it grabs the reader's attention and makes them want to read the rest of the paragraph. So what are some ideas of opening, hooks, attention grabbers that you guys already know? Yes? Quotes or questions. The two cues. Yes? A statement, one of those bold, shocking statements. Yes?
A relatable like story kind of.
Like sometimes people use an analogy. Sorry.
Yeah.
They use sometimes analogies, and sometimes they use like a relatable story, some type of connecting story, some type of little narrative at the beginning, a narration at the beginning, and then they get into their essay. A quick little short one. Very good. What else? Yes? Sometimes people use a definition. They just define the word. So there are many different things that you can use. Some people start with like a joke, you know, like just to grab people's attention. But the idea is just to hook the audience. Some people start with a lyric from a song. Some people start with, you know, something that they heard of, you know, just a thought, and then it connects to the text. But the idea is there are many different ways to hook the audience, but try to find a way to hook the audience that kind of connects to the text. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes? Yes. So that's the first thing that we always do with our paragraphs for this particular class. What's the next thing that we do?
Introduction of the text, including elements of the stack, speaker, title, author, genre.
So a lot of you guys were missing this when you wrote your essay. You guys forgot to even introduce the text first. So remember, just a little short introduction of what you're talking about to get to kind of guide the reader. And we're going to talk about, well, usually we use a tagline. I will tell my students to create an intro using a tagline, which is just the title, the author, or the genre or something. Now we're going to also say stag, but this if you notice, the speaker may sometimes be the author, if that makes sense. So those are okay. But a stag, some elements of that. But remember, for our particular purposes as speaker, we're looking more so in terms of the persona of the person. And we'll get into that in a minute. All right, keep going.
Overview or summary of the text, discussion of subject.
See, that's easy. You just start, that's where you start summarizing the subjects or the elements of the story. Next.
This is a statement about the overall purpose of the text and the rhetorical tools used to achieve the purpose.
So right now we're just going to talk about the purpose. So you'll say something like, Appointment in Samara was written to help readers understand that death is imminent and is likely to happen to them regardless. Boom. However, when we get into actually looking at the rhetorical tools and the strategies, maybe you'll say something like, Appointment in Samara was written to show readers that they have an imminent appointment with death, using pathos, figures, metaphorical language, and irony, or something like that. So, and those would be the three things that you talk about in your essays. So right now, we haven't gotten into the strategy, so you can just stop at saying the purpose. Does that make sense? Okay? Go ahead, and last but not least,
Transition sentence that lets the reader know you're going to the next paragraph.
so we're also gonna always try to create transition sentences. That way, honestly, if you don't get to like the end of the essay, if you're able to like kind of do these things all throughout your essay, it'll make it a complete like, it'll complete the process, and then the reader of the essay, the AP readers, the College Board, even the SAT people, they'll see that you know how to write well, if that makes sense, and that's what they're looking for primarily. All right, so with that being said, first, I want you guys to go ahead and we're gonna start creating we're gonna create the paragraphs right now. So go ahead and put in your opening, your hook, your attention grabber that connects to the text. For me, I just said, can one escape fate, or is destiny a predetermined factor no man can evade? You know, that's just my little question. So now you go ahead and open the paragraph, hook the audience, or grab their attention. Make them want to read the rest of this essay. And all the time we're doing these, pretend like your assignment is to write a rhetorical analysis, essay, or appointment is tomorrow, or whatever text you're reading. So, how are you going to open your essay? We're not going to write the whole essay, just a paragraph. So, open your essay.
I said I was about to write that, but you already moved it, so I have to use something else.
Yes, always. You were not about to write just that. Come over there. Well then, change it up. I'll probably just erase this and I'll need all the wisdom. So go ahead. And I'm gonna walk around with my pen and I'm gonna direct you guys as you go. I've seen a lot. Is there any way you can cheat death? I like this. Death is inevitable. No man, woman, child, or animal can escape her. She looks, stalks, awaiting to pounce like a lion after a deer. She's trying to grab the reader's attention, and she's writing a little novel. So that one was good. So I'm pretty sure you guys have some good ones to know where I'm going to come around. I'm going to circulate the whole entire room. But the idea is looking at the text, trying to create now an introduction to, or a way to hook your audience to reading your paper. Now the next thing that we do is we actually try to introduce the text a little bit. So you have to make sure that whatever your subject was, or I'm sorry, whatever your hook was, you try to connect the two sentences, if that makes sense. So the idea now is, for me, since I asked the question, I just don't let I just don't leave it there and then start talking about the text. I kind of let the reader know, well, this question was answered or talked about in the article. So I said, well, this question is pondered in philosophical intellectual W. Somerset Maugham short story, Appointment in Samara. So I have all the elements of STAG. Who is the speaker? Well, he's this intellectual philosophical guy. Who is the title? What's the title? Appointment in Samara. Who's the author? W. Somerset Maugham. And what's the genre? Okay, it's a short story. Make sure you try to get that right too. A lot of times people call everything a story. Everything is not a story. Everything can be a literary work. Yes, because it's literary just means it's a writing or a piece of writing. Everything can be a text. Yes, but everything is not a story. They'll usually tell you what it is. Either it's a short story that they're telling you to read, it's an excerpt from a novel, it's an essay, it's a magazine article, but it's not necessarily always a story. So go ahead and creatively connect these two sentences. Your opening or your hook to your introduction of the text, including elements of STAG. Speaker, title, author, genre. And I'm coming around here this time. Coming around. I'm gonna go back over there. Don't worry. Come. Okay. You don't have to be, you don't have to be Mozart right now. I like it. Can I read it in a minute? Okay, let's just do it. We'll put it in the
She said she was so with this guy or something like this is, I don't know, but he'll know, because that's what we're doing. We're just doing what we need to do and moving on.
Okay, and I'm gonna scan the data, that way you can have a digital copy.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let me read this one and this one. Alright, so, yeah, I like these two. If I told you that you'd be forced to endure an unspeakable amount of physical and emotional pain, followed by an untimely death, exactly 1 hour from now, would you believe me?
Ooh, can I use that?
This is a concept that storytelling philosopher W. Somerset Maugham tinkered with in the short story, and now I'm going to put appointments tomorrow.
That's not friends.
So, it's like, look, one just really cold, chilling example down your spine, make you wake up and want to read the rest of the paper. Here's one. Death is inevitable. There's no way anyone can escape it. This fact was conveyed in W. Somerset Maugham, the storytelling legends, short story, Appointment is Tomorrow. Ready?
Ooh, that's mine.
Very simple. All right. So next, ladies and gentlemen, the next thing that you can do is now talk about the story, because you introduced the story. Now you can talk about it. Now here's where your favorite parts from reading our assessments were. The little summaries that you gave me. Here's where you kind of give me a little quick summary. Now this is not where you give me all the details. I just need a few. So mine says, a subject or topic of this riveting short story is the destiny or fate that one of the main characters tries to escape. However, his predestined fortune finds him in the end. I just took 2 or 3 sentences. So the idea is, in the overview, yeah, you can have like 3 to 5 sentences right here, but you don't have to tell a lot of the details. Just tell a few quick details. The main idea is to kind of get the reader interested in the story. If you think about the elements of a plot diagram, you guys know what a plot diagram is, right? What happened in the beginning, the middle, the climax, the end, the falling action and the end. So just try to do it like that. Like, just try to get some little quick details, even if you just get 1, 2, and 3. You know? So just try to give quick details. Exposition, rise in action, climax, falling action, resolution, or,
Is it this class?
no, but both will be due next class. Yeah. So what I'm going to have you do, even if the bell rings, you're going to, like I said, the homework assignment is to do the same thing that we're doing right now with the other story. You have a back side to this, so you can do it on the back. You do what's in our pocket. What do we have in our pocket? The story that's on the back. Hey, this man passed the AP exam last year. First football player. I was proud of myself. That was like,
In the history of Crenshaw?
I believe in the history of Crenshaw. That is the first football player. Hey, we got a football player over there. You're next. You're next. You guys can do it. You're next. You're next. You can do it. Watch. It's gonna be the first Joe Sinead ever to pass the test. The first Caitlin. The first Saul. Watch.
I just want to get a shoe.
I just get tired.
Oh,
and
God.
I start guessing because I want to go to sleep.
That's true. I want you not to go to sleep. It's only an hour for multiple choice.
I just, like, it's
Hours?
better if they have the test during, like,
It takes
afternoon.
me like 15 minutes.
When I'm,
Right.
more awake.
And the sad thing about it is our test is usually 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's all, like, I believe that test has always been like
4 hours.
like 1 hour for multiple choice, and then 2.5 hours for the essays, the 3 essays. You can do it though. It's okay. You did it, you can do it. Okay. Gonna get this picture up so y'all can see, so y'all can read. You can do it too.
That's
I should put all the pictures up.
you said three? Three essays?
Yes. It's the same amount of time. Oh, I didn't read yours. I'm coming around. What time is it, Zoe?
9:15.
Oh, we have like, okay. Hey, stop.
Just for right now, at least practice and we'll perfect it as you go. You know what I mean?
Elijah, walk around and help him.
What y'all doing?
So I started doing things a little differently. Last year, you know, we started learning about all the stuff before we started writing. Now we're gonna learn and write, so our writing can improve every day.
Hey, organizer.
Yep. Yeah, I've been working on my pedagogy as well.
Yeah, who?
My teaching practice,
Okay, pedagogy.
so that I can like. Huh?
The organizer said, I told you I gave it to you.
All right, go ahead, relax.
It's fine, you can.
I was gonna read it. Yeah. No, it's not late. Born in LA. You don't like LA, don't be. I'm LA, girl. Can I read it? Just switch my words around. But don't worry. Do yours on your own. Right. Just switching them up. Alright. Alright, let me put the next one up and then I'm gonna read it. Alright, so look. So next, because I see a lot of people are done with this one. Next, after the overview, remember, now we come into our thesis statement. Our thesis statement has to talk about what the purpose of the text is. Like, what is the whole point that we read this article? What did the writer want you to know? For me, I just said, and I'm trying to connect my sentences all throughout this whole thing. So, while the storyline, since I just talked about the storyline up here, while the storyline appears to be interesting, Maugham wants readers to walk away from the text accepting their destinies, not running away, or not running from their fate. Sorry. Not running from their fate. So, the idea is you want to tell us what the purpose of the text is, but you want to also, you want to also make sure that you connect the sentences that you said or you stated previously. You guys understand that? Okay, go ahead. Maybe I should just say, I'm a perfectionist, so run away from fate versus their fate or the fate or anyone's fate. And to be honest, I did the same thing yesterday. I was still correcting. So when you write, you're gonna probably edit yourself 50 million times. It's already discussed. Okay, so the announcement was from Ms. Stack that if you need help with your writing, they have a writing center now, which will be open after schools, Mondays and Wednesdays from 3:15 to 4:30. And I didn't put it on here, don't forget to sign up for Remind 101, ladies and gentlemen, because I have to like text you guys like important things. And I also have tutoring Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, from 3:15 to 5. Unless some appointment comes up, like, I'm usually. Well, not that type of. Well, no. I'll see my. That alone would come bad. We're gonna change it up a little bit. You don't have to. It gets complicated. I think we can do it. So you guys, good point. So remember your thesis statement and all of that. So I don't. Your thesis statement should be like 1 or 2 sentences. It shouldn't be 2 or 3. 1 or 2 at the most.
What's your question?
What is riveting?
What did they wear? Because it's going to be very quick. Here. It's in your book, what did you say? Read this
You guys, so good point. When we get to this right here, think about it like this. We're not necessarily, when you think about the purpose of any text, yes, it's a text that's written for like mass audiences, but it's more so, what does the author want you to know and walk away with and like do after you've read the story? Does that make sense? Okay, so last but not least, my favorite type of sentence, to me this is the easiest one. If we knew, the transition. If we knew which rhetorical strategy we were going to talk about first, maybe we'd say, while all this is compelling, ethos is the first that needs to be analyzed. Because we know, next paragraph, we're going to talk about ethos. But since we don't know particularly which one we're going to talk about yet, the easiest way to say it is, there are many different rhetorical strategies that prove the purpose. Val, but make sure you say what the purpose is. So I said in my particular essay, there are many different literary devices. Are there many different tools that the writer uses? Or there are many rhetorical strategies used to guide readers into a full acceptance of predestined facts of life. Period, point blank. So the transition is just some way where you say like, I'm finishing up my little intro, now I'm about to go into my essay, or how the writer discussed what they discussed. I mean, how the writer achieved their purpose. So go ahead, wrap yours up, transition, pretend like you're going to another paragraph. You don't really have to go to another paragraph, but pretend. But pretend. But pretend. No. I want to come over there. No. You said no? You want me to over here?
No,
No, not yet. Not yet. You're not ready? I'm not ready. I'm ready. Oh, dang it. That's the bell. Go ahead. Write yours. And let me just say this. The homework, simply, very easily, homework is just simply you now doing the same exact thing with what do we have in our pockets. You can write them those are yours. Remember, all the handouts are yours. So the homework, and I put it right here. You do a SOAPS analysis. So you do that. You do a SOAPS analysis and the introduction paragraph. And you staple your do now and the one that you did today to that one. So staple everything from today with your homework. Bring it to me on Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, Tuesday. You got a whole, like, 4-day weekend. You can do it. I believe in you. I believe
Show them off.